Hot damn it, I was muted. I apologize. I muted myself. Anyway, everyone, welcome back to Joe Knows Wednesday night. This is the Toilets to Titles NFL review show. It's actually review and recap. I'm reviewing the Week 5 games that we just went through, and I'll be giving my picks for the Week 6 games. Anyway, welcome back, everyone. I'm so happy to have you here. So happy to be talking NFL football. We just surpassed Week 5. In this NFL season 2022, everything is topsy-turvy. You've got the Jets and the Giants looking pretty good. The Eagles are taking the NFL world by storm. Geno West is looking like one of the best quarterbacks. Geno Smith, excuse me, is looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. It's looking like a career revival like we've never seen, uh, either that we've never seen before or we haven't seen in a long time. But there's so much going on in the NFL, so much that's unexpected compared to what we were expecting coming into the season. It's been absolutely insane. So it's also been a lot of fun too, especially if you're a fan of a team like myself that you weren't expecting all that much. It is crazy. You do have your stalwarts out there that are performing well, such as like Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, Dallas Cowboys, who I pretty much expect a lot from year in and year out. Their defense is really, really good. They're a strong 4-1, and they're just waiting for Dak to come back. I would assume either possibly this weekend or next weekend. Hang on one second. My dog Melvin's coming over to say hello. Let me mute myself so I can just get him out of here. 1 second. Sorry, Melvin's always trying to get his put his 2 cents in, but no, no. So anyway, everybody, so yeah, it's been a topsy-turvy NFL season. There are some teams performing up to expectations, but there's a whole bunch of teams that are performing beyond our expectations, and a whole bunch of teams that are performing not up to expectations. So we're going to dive into it all, but before we get into our juicy content, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Give us that 5-star Apple review. We'd really appreciate it. That helps us out a lot. It takes like 30 seconds to do. If you could do it, we'd really appreciate it. Excuse me, where you can follow the show: Apple Podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, Spotify. And if you go to our website, toiletstitles.com, it has all of our content that we produce. That is all of our videos, all of our articles. That's actually over here. All of our videos, all of our articles, where we cover everything to do with football, NFL, college football, fantasy football, and draft content. We cover it all. It's all out there. It all goes on our website, regardless of where we originally show it. Like here on YouTube, it all winds up on our great website anyway. And again, that's toiletstitles.com. And last but not least, if you go to patreon.com/toiletstitles, you can learn how you can further support the show. I just want to give a shout out to all of our current Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. Everything that you're able to contribute to the show goes back into the show. So we really, 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 really appreciate your additional support. And thank you again so much. So, anyway, everyone, let's get into the juicy content. All right, the Thursday night game, it was pretty darn wild. Everyone, if you were on Twitter, if you're, everyone was complaining about how boring the game basically was. I don't think it was necessarily boring. It was just crazy. The Colts are now 2-1. They defeated the Broncos, who are now 2-3, 12-9. A lot of people have been very concerned about, and rightfully so, about Russell Wilson. I actually, and I've said this before, started getting concerned about Russell Wilson. I noticed before he was traded to the Broncos that for his last year and a half at Seattle, he didn't seem to be himself. And I figured when he went to Denver that you're going to see Russell Wilson cook. You're going to see him be what we saw in like 2016, 17, 18, 2015, whenever he was going to the Super Bowls, uh, what you'd expect from Russell Wilson. I figured that's what we were going to get in Denver. I also thought it might take a little time. Even though he was, for a long time, he's been a highly regarded quarterback, one of the top echelon quarterbacks in the NFL for a while. You're making a transition to another team. It's a new offense. It could take like 3 to 4 weeks to work out the kinks, even an experienced quarterback like Russell Wilson. This game, I came out of this game really worried because even though I was kind of down on Russell Wilson before he was traded to the Broncos, I did think he would do. I still thought he would do better with the Broncos. he wasn't doing well for the first 4 games of the year. Here, week 5 against the Colts, he didn't look good. I realize that they're missing Javonte Williams, but I like Javonte a lot. He's a good running back. He's not, in my opinion, like a top echelon running back, though. Very good running back, not a top one. You shouldn't miss him that much. It's not just missing Javonte. There was definitely something up with Russ. I still believe that he could turn it around, but as it turned out, as it came out after this game, he's got a torn labrum, I believe, or a torn shoulder, partially torn. I think he's got a partial tear in his shoulder. So that could definitely explain a lot. Um, and I do think he's expected to play this week, this upcoming weekend, Russ, that is. So I believe, I don't know how he's going to do this week, but he's going to heal eventually. I do think he's going to get better, but the Broncos should be concerned because they're 2-3 in a very, very tough division. We're not even a full third of the way through the season, though. We still have 12 games to go, so there is still plenty of time. But as we know in the NFL, there's plenty of time, but time goes very quick because every game really does count, and they're an extremely tough division. I know the AFC West is not necessarily living up to the standards that we were expecting, but it's still a very talented division, and I do think some of these teams, like the Broncos and the Chargers and the Raiders, are going to start playing like more like we expected them. But the Colts, give the Colts credit. The Colts were a tough team. They've been a tough team for a long time. Last year, the Colts got off to a slow start. I think they started off something like 0-3 or 1-4, something like that, and they wound up having like a 10-7 season, I believe. They just missed the playoffs, but the Colts got much better as the season went along. I realize the Colts are missing Jonathan Taylor, but I think like their young wide receiver Alec Pierce is looking very good. That's a good sign. You can pair him up with Pittman. I think Matt Ryan, who yes, a longtime veteran quarterback, and I know people have been disappointed in his performance, but again, you know, even as a longtime veteran, experienced quarterback, it takes some time to get used to your new offense. So the Colts are have worked their way up to 2-1. I think they're in a pretty good position to win that division because I do think the Colts are better than the Titans. Um, and so I do. The Jaguars. We'll get to that game a little later. Jaguars. Listen, I like the direction the Jaguars are trending. I think they have a lot of good young talent, but I think the hype train was getting a little too hyped a little too quickly. So anyway, good win by the Colts. They stuck it out. It looked like the Broncos were going to win this up until like the last minute or two of the game. Colts were able to come back. So I think the Colts for their division, which is a very, very weak division right now, is looking like probably the worst division in football, right? One of the worst divisions in football, the AFC South. I think the Colts are actually in a good position to win it. I do think they've got overall more talent than the Titans, and I think they're going to wind up winning the division. The Broncos, they're 2-3. It's not horrible. We expected more from them after they traded for Russ, but I think the Broncos definitely have the talent to turn things around. Russ's shoulder needs to heal though, and he needs to start clicking with that offense. And I do think that he will. I don't think I do believe. I'll say this. I do believe that the days of Russ Wilson, of like when he was just performing at a great, great level, and helping lead the team along with Lynch, with Marshawn Lynch, helping lead that team, the Seahawks, that is, to back-to-back Super Bowl appearances. I think those days are over, but I still think Russ has a really high ceiling, very similar as to when Peyton Manning was traded to the Broncos. Peyton wasn't the same Peyton Manning when he was with the Colts before his serious neck injury, but he was still Peyton Manning. The guy was like the smartest quarterback to have ever played the game, and he was still very accurate. Hardly ever made mistakes. Maybe he didn't have the arm talent that he had in his heyday, but the guy was still a quarterback genius and minimized mistakes, and he knew how to use his weapons properly. And I think you're going to get that with Russ too. I do. I just give it a little more time. I have a lot of hope for the Broncos. They're way too talented of a team to, have a record that's under 500. Way too talented of a team. Okay, let's move on to the Sunday morning game in London. The Giants, the surprising Giants, are now 4-1. This game was a surprise. They defeated the Packers, who are now 3-2. The final score was 27-22. Most of the damage that the Giants did was in the second half. That's kind of been the story of the Giants this season. They've been first half. They've every single game except for the Bears game. They've come out very slow offensively, and then been making their halftime adjustments, shutting down the opposing team offensively for the most part, and then putting up the vast majority of their own points in the second half. So Hats off to the Giants. I really, as a Giants fan, I thought they could make it a game possibly because they've been a very, very well coached team. The Giants' new regime, their coaching regime, from the head coach to the coordinators down to all the assistant coaches, have been doing a phenomenal job. And but this win here, this upset win, this was possibly the biggest upset this week, was pretty crazy. So I wasn't expecting that at all. Giants are 4-1, and they've got one of the easiest, if not the easiest, schedule in the NFL this year. So they could be. I'm not getting ahead of myself as a Giants fan, but 4-1. You look at a lot of teams they've got coming up in the rest of the schedule. The Commanders twice, the Jaguars, the Lions, who I think are deadly because they put up a lot of points. Even though they didn't this week, we'll get to that game. But the Lions have been, for the most part, putting up a lot of points this year. But again, the Giants have the Commanders twice. They have the Lions. They have the Jaguars. I think they have the Texans. They may have the Seahawks. There are my point being that there are very winnable games on this schedule. So they could easily get to 10, not easily, excuse me. They can get to 10 wins realistically. And I don't know if that's enough to make the playoffs, to be honest, because the NFC is looking really tough this year. I think if you really want to kind of guarantee yourself a shot, a spot in the playoffs, you need to get to 11 wins this year. But 10 wins is going to keep you obviously very relevant. And if the Giants can do that, man, if the Giants can get to 9 wins, even 8 wins, I would have been happy if you told me that at the beginning of the season. Now that they're 4-1, we're definitely got it. We have to set our sights higher, especially with the schedule that we have. We have to set our sights higher, barring any other injuries. They've also had a lot of injuries. They should be getting some key guys back soon, such as Leonard Williams and Ojulari. Hopefully, Wandale Robinson, even though he's a rookie, I really don't know what he's going to do. But Giants need to get some of these guys back. But their schedule's in their favor. It really is. The Packers, look, you had a setback here, but I realize this isn't the same Packers offense that we're used to. They don't have Devontae Adams. They're kind of relying until those two young wide receivers, their rookie wide receivers they drafted this year, until they're more experienced, more up to speed. They the Packers really do have to rely on that excellent running game. And it's an excellent running game, but it also makes them a little. They're not one dimensional, but you know their wide receivers, the young wide receivers, need to get more up to speed to make them more multi-dimensional. Okay, they're not the multi-dimensional offense that we've come to know for the past few years when they had Devontae Adams. But Packers will figure it out. They're going to be fine. They're going to wind up in the playoffs as well. They're 3-2, but Aaron Rodgers and the Packers will figure it all out. But anyway, kudos to the Giants. That was a great, great, important victory that I was not expecting. Okay, the Bills seriously took care of business this weekend against the Steelers, who were led by rookie quarterback Kenny Pickett, who had his first NFL start. Overall, Kenny Pickett actually did a decent job. I don't have the box score up in front of me, but the guy for his first game, the final score was ugly. It's 38-3 Bills. I didn't expect that much of a blowout, but I wasn't surprised that I thought the Bills would win by like 2 touchdowns or something like that. Anyway, the Bills really took care of it. They're on a mission. They're all serious. They're all in. The Steelers, Kenny Pickett actually dropped back to pass like 54 times. He had 54 passing attempts, which I don't know. It sounds like it may be a record for a first-time starting quarterback to attempt 54 passes. So, and he had something like I think well over 300 yards. 54 passing attempts, you should, but still, kudos to him. You can't ask for a tougher first assignment than going up against the Buffalo Bills, who looks like they have a date with destiny in the Super Bowl. So, I think overall, good job by Kenny Pickett. It's not reflective in the score, but good job by him. Anyway, not much to talk about in this game. I don't really think the Bills took care of business as they should have. And I've been saying all along, this looks like a team that's on a mission. Okay, the Chargers are 3-2. Chargers haven't been winning pretty. They haven't been winning pretty, but they've been winning. They are 3-2. They defeated a tough Cleveland Browns team. Cleveland's 2-3. The final score is 30-28. Uh, Chargers are hanging in there. I am a little worried about them. They do need Keenan Allen back. They've been doing okay without him, but they do need Keenan Allen back. I think he's going to be back sometime soon. But Chargers are hanging in there, 3-2. This is a team that, and rightfully so, this team has a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. 3-2 is certainly nothing bad at all. But This is a team I still think down the road is going to make the playoffs. I think they are going to straighten things out. I think they are going to have a nice winning streak sometime coming up sometime soon. But they play in a really tough division. But they took care of the Browns, and I think the Browns overall are actually doing a pretty good job of kind of like treading water there until Deshaun Watson comes back. Like I think week 11, I think is when he can. I think Watson actually started practicing. He's allowed back to practice now, and but I don't think he can. I don't think he can actually play until week 11 could be the first game that he starts. So Browns overall doing a pretty good job of treading water there with the backup quarterback. I think it's Brissett. I think it's Brissett is a backup quarterback. I always get confused between Brissett and Bridgewater. I think it's Brissett is the backup quarterback. They're doing okay. They're doing okay. Again, the tight end Njoku for the Cleveland had a really good game again. He's having a great season. I wasn't buying into it. A lot of other people were buying into it that this is he got a big contract. That he's going to have a big year this year. I wasn't buying it because I never really saw it from him. Hats off to him. He proved me wrong. He's having a really big year. Amari Cooper had a pretty good game too with a touchdown. The running back duo, of course, as always for Cleveland, was the star of the show. Chubb had a big game and at least one touchdown. I believe Hunt had his usual mix of like 30 yards rushing, 30 yards receiving, and a touchdown. You could always count on those guys. So, but Cleveland's doing a pretty good job of hanging in there, and they've had their own share of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. So, but they're hanging in there. Playing the Chargers is not easy. Is not easy. So, but anyway, let me check out the comments here. Two comments. George Reed. Hey, my friend George. What's up, George? How's it going, my friend? Yeah, we all need Keenan Allen back. Yeah, I got him on one of my rosters, and I need him back too. He was giving me a lot of points before he went down. And George Reed is our in-house. Hey, Steve Evans is here. Uncle Steve, how's it going, my friend? And George is our in-house Miami Dolphins fan. I know, he's waiting for Tua to come back. I'm unsure, George, I wasn't really in our Toilets and Titles chat too much today. Not, I was gave a few brief comments. That's it. But I haven't really checked up on Tua. I'm wondering if he's coming back. Well, I know he's not playing this weekend, but it looks like the big debate is who's going to be starting quarterback for the Dolphins this weekend. Is it going to be Bridgewater? Is it going to be the rookie quarterback and Skylar Thompson? So that's right. All right. Hey, Steve, that's right. You know what? And Steve, thanks for reminding me. I have to I have to tell all the viewers. Okay, Steve Evans is saying I'm a T2T fanatic, and he provided his Twitter address. And to everyone else out there watching the show, if you either in the chat here or even on the comment section of the video, if you're watching this video, say tomorrow or the day after that, whenever, hang on one second. If you type into the chat or like I said, the comment section of the video, sometime over the next few days, if you type in, I'm a T2T fanatic, and then provide your Twitter address, you're going to be put in, you'll have an automatic entry to a raffle that we're holding on November 1st for a free $100 Fanatic gift card. Again, it's a $100 gift card for Fanatics, and that will be held on November 1st. It's going to be automatically generated the winner. And so, yeah, go ahead. That's it right there. George says that he's also a T2T fanatic. We all are, and everyone should be, and eventually the entire world will be. Yeah. So George is saying Teddy B will be the quarterback. Okay. So is that confirmed, George? It's going to be Teddy Bridgewater. Okay. Yeah, I know seemed like it was uncertain whether it's going to be Teddy Bridgewater or the rookie Skylar Thompson. And but anyway, let's get back over to the content. All right, the Vikings are 4-1. Sorry, guys, operating technical difficulties with my dog who's acting like a pain in the rear end right now. The Vikings are 4-1. They took care of business against the Bears, who are now 2-3. Final score is 29-22. I have to give props to the Bears, though. The Bears have been hanging tough. They've been playing hard. They've been keeping these games close. There may have been one blowout, maybe, but it's a team that's really lacking in talent. Their offensive line is horrible. They've done Justin Fields no favors with that, a la Daniel Jones and other young quarterbacks too, who have been having to play their first few years of their career with horrible offensive lines. um, and so, but the Bears have been hanging tough. They had a chance to win this game, didn't work out. Justin Fields had a very good game actually. He threw for, I think, a little over 200 yards. I think he put up like another 40 yards rushing, and and he had a good game overall. I think he had a passing touchdown, I believe. And so I don't think he had any interceptions. He actually had a good game, Justin Fields. Considering with what he has to work with, he does not have any dynamic wide receivers. I like Darnell Mooney. He's not a wide receiver one. I think at best on a good team with a good wide receiver core, I think Mooney's a wide receiver two. He's not a wide receiver one. He's got some good running backs, but you need some more receiving threats too. There was actually a Cole Kmet sighting, believe it or not. Don't count on that repeating necessarily because I don't think Komet's ever had two good games back in a row, but he actually had a few catches for like 40 or 45 yards. But Chicago, their defense has been playing tough. They've been keeping these games close, so kudos to them. But again, it's also listen, kudos to the Bears, but also it's another example of the Vikings always playing down to their to the level of the competition. And this is the type of stuff that bites them in the ass every single year. They're 4-1 right now. They're hanging in there, but Vikings scare me. They also, I mean, positive thing in their favor too is they tend to play up to their competition as well. But the Vikings should have been taking care of the Bears. I realize it's a divisional game and those are tough. The Vikings should have been taking care of the Bears pretty easily, but this was actually a game. The Vikings, you always play like this, and it always winds up biting you in the ass a few times every single year. You have way too much talent on offense to be have keeping all of your games close. They can't all be close. You need to have some blowouts. Your defense is not great, but it's good enough. But you have a really really good offense, and a team like the Bears, you should be putting away early, and it shouldn't be close like this. So hey, listen, I'm critical of the Vikings because I think they've got enough talent to be one of the upper echelon teams. And like I said though, and I'll say it for like the fifth time, they play down to the level of the competition and always winds up biting in the rear end a few times every single year, and sometimes that keeps them out of the playoffs. But right now they're 4-1. Listen, I know the Packers had a big blow, unexpectedly against the Giants this weekend. The Packers are 3-2, but obviously the Packers are the Packers. They're always going to get their 11 or 12 wins every single year. So Vikings, keep it up. Keep up the win streak. You are doing well record wise, but man, you really need to start really burying the teams that you're supposed to bury. You really need to. Okay, so the Patriots are 2-3. They're 2-3. They defeated the 1-4 Lions. The Lions have much more talent than the Patriots. I realize the Lions were missing DeAndre Swift, who's been, when he was healthy this year, was a phenomenal weapon. Just looking absolutely phenomenal for the Lions. And Amon-Ra St. Brown got on the field. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I loved when he came out of the draft. I was always very, very high on that guy. I've got the receipts to prove that one. He was on the field, but he really his amount of touches were minimized, and so I think he didn't put up all that much yardage at all. He obviously wasn't the same player this week, but still, even if Amon-Ra St. Brown were Amon-Ra St. Brown, it looks like they weren't winning this game. The Patriots seriously took care of business with their backup quarterback, Bailey Zappi, which I'm happy to see that guy perform pretty well. He went to the right organization because the Patriots, they don't have a lot of talent on either side of the ball. Patriots fans will tell you that too, but they do know how to make things friendly for their quarterback. And Bailey Zappi was like a third or fourth round pick. I like that guy coming out of college. I thought he's someone who could down the road develop into actually a quality starting quarterback that he had the potential to. Not that it was definite, but he had the potential to. He was someone I found to be intriguing. And kudos to him. He didn't have like some monster game of 400 yards or something like that. It was only like 187 yards. He had a passing touchdown and may have had one interception, but overall he was efficient. Patriots defense really took care of business here. I was totally shocked by the score because the Lions have been averaging something like 35 points a game, something crazy like that. And this is definitely a disappointing game. But again, Bill Belichick, like many great quarterbacks out there, like a Mahomes or a Josh Allen, is an equalizer by himself. Are the Patriots going to the playoffs this year? No. They don't have nearly enough talent to it all. But this is a guy, and this is my point about Bill Belichick that I made to some of my compadres here to us the titles, is that he keeps his team in every single game. Maybe they'll get blown out now once in a while because they're not very talented. but you can never sleep on the Patriots because of Bill Belichick. And I realize the Lions, who are like 1-4, they can't be sleeping on anyone, but they have been putting up a lot of points. I was shocked by the result of this game, but the Patriots, hey man, 2-3, 2-3, which is actually kind of better than I thought they'd be at this point. But they are 2-3. Lions unfortunately fall to 1-4. That was not a good loss there. That was a bad one. Lions should have won that game, even with DeAndre Swift being out, and even with Amon-Ra St. Brown being limited. The Lions do have a lot more talent, especially in the offensive side of the ball, to lose this game the way they did. Okay, the Saints are now 2-3. They defeated the Seahawks, who are also 2-3. Final score is 39-32. And this is the Taysom Hill show, guys. Taysom Hill. And there's been a big debate behind the scenes here at Plus Titles over the past week over Taysom Hill. Some of us love him. Some of us just see him as a gimmick. I like the guy a lot. I've bought into Taysom Hill. I don't even necessarily know what that means. I don't necessarily think this guy should be the starting quarterback. But I think maybe be the starting tight end. But my point being that this guy needs to be on the field all the time, and you want to try to get the ball in his hands because this guy makes things happen. Taysom Hill on the field all the time, the Alvin Kamara can be pretty darn crazy. And I think a creative head coach or creative offensive coordinator would try to make sure that Taysom Hill is on the field all the time. Whatever you want to do, wildcat, I don't care, whatever it is, move him all over the place. But Taysom Hill is a weapon, and this was the Taysom Hill show. Seahawks playing darn well though. You got to give them kudos. They're 2-3, but man, Geno West is looking really good. Seahawks are putting up points too. Their rookie running back who took over for Rashad Penny, Kenneth Walker had a good game. He's looking like the real deal. And Penny is, we'll see what happens next year. He's done for the year, but I try to stay away from that guy, Penny, that is, this year in fantasy football because I wasn't buying into it. I think I might have gotten him on one team, but honestly, he was like my flex or even like my running back 4. Like I wasn't buying into the guy. He's got way too much of a history of injury. And sure enough, he goes down for the season yet again with yet another injury. But I was always very high on Kenneth Walker out of this draft class. He went to the right team for him. I knew they were going to wind up needing a running back, and he's been looking really good so far. So Seahawks, it looks like you have your quarterback of the future, right? With Geno Smith, isn't this crazy? It looks like you have the quarterback of your future. You probably have your long-term running back, and you got DJ Metcalf and you got Lockett. You're looking pretty good, guys. You're looking pretty good. The defense hasn't been all that bad either. Also Tariq Woolen, shout out to him, cornerback. I believe I could be wrong about this. I think Tariq Woolen was out of UCLA. I forgot what college. It's been a few months, but he was someone I was high on for like a mid-round pick, like 3rd, 4th round, something like that. I was really high on that guy. I really like him a lot. I thought he would need more seasoning, maybe like a full year under the full year in the NFL before you could really see what he could do because he was raw coming out of college. But man, Seattle drafted him, and Tariq Woolen is playing really, really well. So hats off to him. I'm really happy for him. Seattle did a good job in drafting that guy, Tariq Woolen. I like him a lot. All right, so yeah, George, Kenneth Walker, man. I like him. I like Kenneth Walker, man. Yep. Yep. Kenneth Walker to the moon, baby. To the moon. Yeah, all these draft picks, man. I have to give kudos to Seattle. They've actually been having some good drafts over the past, like this past year, they had a pretty good draft. Before that, for a few years before that, they're having really, really bad drafts. But they just had a pretty good draft. The draft class is contributing, and man, I'll tell you, it's crazy when you can get a quarterback. When you can get a quarterback like Geno Smith to just fall. I can't say fall into your lap. I mean, for him just to all of a sudden blossom the way that we're seeing, this is crazy. I'm hoping he keeps up because I think he's a good dude. And you have to give something to Pete. You have to give kudos to Pete Carroll on seeing that. He saw something there. So kudos to him on that. That's exciting though. The Geno Smith show is exciting. It is. And Seattle, man, it stunk that you had to move on from Russ Wilson. Obviously, it was the right move. Definitely made the right move because even if he was tearing it up with Denver, you needed a change. Russ wasn't happy there anymore, and you could see it. You don't want that on your team. You don't want that on your team. You had good memories, but now it's time for Seattle to make new good memories. So you headed in the right direction, Seattle. You headed in the right direction. Yeah, that's right. Seattle got a ton of picks from Denver for Wilson, so kudos to them. Hey, you know what? They needed those picks because remember all the picks. One of the dumbest trades I've ever seen was that George Reed's making the point that Seattle got a ton of picks from Denver for Russ Wilson. They're getting some of those picks back that they gave up for Jamal Adams, which was one of the most ridiculous trades I've ever seen. I love the safety position. It's my favorite position on the defensive side of the ball because of the versatility that is required. But that was just insane. That was crazy when it happened. Even when Jamal Adams was looking great on the Jets and they traded for him, I still thought that was insane. And George is saying that Denver's first and second rounders in each of the two next drafts, as well as the 2022 fifth rounder. Yeah, that's you know what, for a rebuild, man, they're looking good. They're looking really good. And I think Pete Carroll's going to know what to do. Listen, Pete Carroll built the previous, juggernaut that Seattle was for quite a while there. That was Pete Carroll. And I've got no doubt. I know the guy's like 70 years old, but he's still sharp. I think he knows what he's doing. And I'm curious. I have full faith that Pete Carroll is going to put together a good, new, young generation of Seattle Seahawks. I think they're in good hands. But how much does it help, George? How much does it help that they've got Geno Smith as their quarterback if he continues the way he's been playing? If he continues, can you imagine, George, if they don't have to spend any of those picks on a quarterback, what they could do with those picks in terms of trading back or using them, or even packaging and moving up to maybe get another quarterback of the future who's younger. If there's someone they really believe in, like a CJ Stroud, if they want to get younger and then maybe trade Geno Smith. But point being that I'm talking too much about Seattle, but it's really intriguing to see what's going to happen with Seattle and next year's draft picks if Geno Smith continues to play the way he has been, and if they decide they want to stick with him and they're not going to draft a quarterback. It's going to be really, 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 really interesting to see what they do with those picks. They can use them wherever. They could also trade back for more picks. It's going to be interesting to see. I love the flexibility. It's almost as good as Philadelphia Eagles situation. Their situation is insane with with they're certainly not going to need to draft a quarterback. They've got their franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and they're going to have the Saints 2023 first round pick, and the Saints are only 2-3. They're 2-3, and they're not looking that good. I'm not into the Saints at all. I think that could wind up being like a top 10 pick for Philadelphia that they got from the Saints, and what they can do with that pick, and they could use it to draft an impact player on either side of the ball, or they could trade back again for additional first round picks. Philadelphia's going to have so much. They're already stacked on both sides of the ball, and what they can do with that first round pick that they got from New Orleans Saints is pretty insane. Pretty insane. Philadelphia is in the driver's seat for the next few years with the draft. That is. Anyway, let me move along. Okay, the Jets are 3-2. Sorry, George. As we all know, they defeated Georgia's Dolphins 40-17. It was an ugly beginning from this game. First of all, Tua was out. Tua has been clicking with his really talented wide receiver core, but Tua, as you know, was not available for this game because of the concussion. So Bridgewater was going to start. He got knocked out like very early in the game, like at maybe the first play or within like the first like 3 or 4 plays. He got knocked out, I believe, and it, apparently maybe it wasn't a concussion, but they just treated it like a concussion, and they brought in the rookie quarterback Skylar Thompson, who actually didn't play all that bad. He wasn't all that bad, but also he's a rookie. He was taken late in this current draft in 2022. But I know George has been telling me that there's a lot of good stuff coming out of Miami in terms of how they feel about Skylar Thompson, that they were very high on him. But to be thrown into this situation of the game when you weren't expecting to start, that's tough. That's tough. So, but I would have been intrigued to see Skylar Thompson start this upcoming weekend. But apparently, as per George, it's going to be Bridgewater, which is fine. The guy is one of the best backup quarterbacks there. He knows how to manage a game. You can win with Bridgewater, especially with the talent on offense that the Dolphins have. But anyway, the Jets took care of business here. I wasn't surprised that the Jets won this game because Tua was out. I wasn't surprised. Um, and, I do believe that the young Jets are looking really, really good and they're starting to click. I am just surprised by the score. I think it's more of a fluke than anything. But the Jets, I think, are for real. I think this team's for real. I'm not saying that they're going to beat a team like the Dolphins 40-17 every weekend, but everything is kind of clicking really, really well. Zach Wilson's playing well. That's the only one concern that I would have had possibly was him coming back when Joe Flacco actually had that offense rolling pretty well. Um, and but Zach Wilson's second game back in a row. Jets won their second game in a row. All of their young players are clicking. Headlined by Brees Hall, rookie running back for the Jets. Brees Hall had a monster game. Off the top of my head, I believe he had around 200 yards combined, rushing and receiving, and he had a few touchdowns as well. I think he had at least one touchdown. I know Michael Carter, their other running back, had two touchdowns, but Brees Hall had a monster game, and Jets' offensive line's looking pretty good. Zach Wilson, the most important component of any team, the young quarterback, is looking good. Garrett Wilson looking good. Everything important that they need to really look good is looking good for the Jets. So they're 3-2. I think the Jets are legitimate. Um, Now, I don't know exactly what that means. Are they going to make it in the playoffs, down the road? Well, we got a long ways to go, but I think they're a threat. They're dangerous, and there could be some hiccups there because their best players are the youngest players, and so there are probably going to be some mistakes there, some growing pains, I would assume. The Jets are definitely on the right trajectory. And a few weeks ago, when Rob Saleh, their head coach, said that he was taking receipts on people who were being critical of the Jets, you know what? Hey, listen, he's right. He's right because he's got the Jets headed in the right direction, and they're looking really solid. It doesn't look like any type of fluke to me. Their GM, I think Joe Douglas is his name, has done a really good job of compiling young talent for this next generation of Jets, and they're looking really good. They've got some good young talent in all the right spots right now. So kudos to them. But I do think that AFC East, that's going to be a brutal battle. I do think Buffalo, Seattle, even though Miami beat Buffalo in a really good game a few weeks ago, I still think Buffalo is the better team. Um, but man, I'll tell you, man, the AFC East is looking really good, and just like the NFC East too is looking. I'm a Giants fan. I love the improvement of my team. I love that they've got fight. I do think there's a definitive ceiling for my team. I'm okay with that because as long as it looks like they've got the right coaching staff and they are developing their young players, I'm all cool. But NFC East is looking really good, especially headlined by the Eagles and the Cowboys. But man, the AFC East is looking just as good with the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, the talent they have, and those Jets, the up and comers, are 3-2. They're looking dangerous, man. Both Eastern divisions are looking really dangerous. Okay, so moving on to the Buccaneers, who are now 3-2. They held off the Falcons. The Falcons are now 2-3. The final score of this game was 21-15. I realized I didn't actually see the game. I know there was a controversial roughing the passer penalty at the end of the game that helped the Buccaneers out. But either way, Buccaneers did hold off the Falcons. Kudos to the Falcons, who are 2-3. They're having another respectable year, just like they did last year. No one was expecting anything from the Falcons last year, and they were a tough team. They didn't have a winning record, but they were pretty much in every single game, and they're doing the same thing here too. They've been in every single game, the Falcons, and they're hanging tough. So kudos to them. I like how that team's progressing. Their defense is hanging up. I got to check into the details of the defense, but their defense has been playing pretty well this year, the Falcons. I'm not saying fantasy wise, but it looks like they've been playing pretty well this year, just NFL wise, that is. And the young players are coming along pretty well. Drake London, wide receiver, I think he's been looking really good this year so far. He's going to have some quiet games. It's not like he's playing with Patrick Mahomes, but but still, and I realize Kyle Pitts is having a quiet year. Kyle Pitts is going to be fine. I was worried about him this year. I stayed away from him in fantasy just because I was worried that he didn't have Matt Ryan. He didn't have Matt Ryan, so I was worried about that situation. I think Kyle Pitts is going to be fine in the long run. I do. I don't know how he's going to be this year fantasy wise, because the quarterback situation isn't necessarily great. So he doesn't have that experienced quarterback throwing to him anymore. But I think in the long term, I think Kyle Pitts is going to be just fine, both in the NFL and for fantasy football. So anyway, but point being that Falcons are doing a good job of hanging tough. Kudos to them. Buccaneers, I think the Buccaneers are going to figure things out. The only thing that worries me about the Buccaneers really is Tom Brady. Is his head still into it? Is his head still in? I know his heart is, but is his head? With the divorce going on and everything, it must have rocked his world. I assume. But Buccaneers have had slow starts with Brady at the helm. In the past, and they've straightened things out. I fully expect the Buccaneers to be, a Super Bowl contender at the end of the year. Okay, the Titans, the 3-2 Titans defeated the now 1-4 Commanders 21-17. Titans are hanging tough there. There's nothing to really go into the details of this game. Uh, Titans are playing Titans football. They're running the ball. They've got a good defense, and they play tough like they always do. They're so similar to Baltimore, in that they don't really have like an outstanding receiver, but they've got an excellent running back, or at least an excellent running game for the Ravens, and a really tough defense, and just a mentally tough, smart team, very well coached team. That's so similar to Baltimore. Here are the Titans 3-2. They defeated the Commanders, who are now 1-4. Commanders are in serious trouble. I assume Ron Rivera is going to finish out the year, unlike Matt Rule at Carolina. I assume Ron Rivera, because Rivera at least has that NFL head coach pedigree, and he's been to a Super Bowl and he's been in the playoffs many times. I'm sure the Commanders aren't counting on going to the Super Bowl or the playoffs this year, but I would assume Rivera is going to finish out the year. I don't know if he's going to be around next year. But the Commanders, man, they're going to be in good position to draft one of these young, promising quarterbacks coming out, because I don't think it's going to get much better for the Commanders. They look really bad. They still need more help on the defensive side of the ball, and they, above all, are going to need a young franchise quarterback, a potential franchise quarterback that they can, they should be in a good position to draft this year. I'm not. I still think Carson Wentz can be a serviceable quarterback, but this is something about this team. It's just not. They need more talent on the defensive side of the ball. Their offensive pieces are underwhelming. McLaurin. We all expect more. And listen, McLaurin paired up with the right quarterback, so you give him to Mahomes. I'm sure McLaurin would be another like Tyreek Hill type player. He'd be put up crazy numbers, I would assume. But I don't know. There's always something about Washington that leaves you wanting more. And listen, I defend Carson Wentz to a point, but he is looking like crap. He is looking like crap. So, I don't know. His career as a starter might be coming to an end. Might be coming to an end, because the Commanders are definitely going to wind up being in a good place to draft a quarterback after this year. And this is going to be a crowded quarterback class. I would assume the Commanders are going to be drafting one, no doubt about it. And what does that mean for Carson Wentz after that? I would assume he's going to wind up being relegated to a backup. That would be my assumption. But anyway, the Titans took care of business. I still believe that the Colts are going to wind up winning that division. I do. I do believe the Colts are more talented than Titans, and the Colts will wind up winning that division. And when I say that division, I mean the AFC South. Okay, so let's move on to the Texans upsetting the Jaguars. The Texans are now 1-3-1. They upset the Jaguars, who are now 2-3. The final score of this game was 13-6. Trevor Lawrence had a sloppy game. It wasn't a pretty game really all around, except for Damian Pierce. Damian Pierce, rookie running back for the Texans, is looking like the real deal. He had a phenomenal game. I forgot the yardage that he put up, but he had at least one really big. He put up a good amount of yardage. I forgot what it was, and he had I think like 20 or 30 yards in the receiving game as well. He put up one rushing touchdown. He's looking great, Damian Pierce. Really like him a lot. He's looking like a true blue running back, and so he's looking really good. The Jaguars were looking good leading up to this game, but listen, they're a young team. I think the Jaguars are headed in the right direction with their new head coach. I think they look good overall. But when you're a young team like this, you're going to have hiccups. You're going to have hiccups. So I'm not completely surprised by this result, 13-6. But I think the Jaguars, I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to continue to progress. They've got a good head coach. They've got good young talent on both sides of the ball. Oh, Travis Etienne had a really good game for the Jaguars. Very good game. James Robinson, on the other hand, had yet another very quiet game, which is very disconcerting. He had a quiet game for the Jaguars. Disconcerting because I have him on at least one of my fantasy rosters, but Travis Etienne had a great game, but it was a losing effort. But I think the Jaguars are headed in the right direction. But listen, when you're a young team, that's not all. They've got some good young talent, but not nearly enough. They're headed in the right direction. They're headed in the right direction. Okay, the 49ers are now 3-2. They defeated the Panthers, who are now 1-4. Final score of this game was 37-15. Matt Rule, head coach for the Panthers, is gone, deservedly so. I'm sure he'll wind up going back to the college ranks, and I'm sure he'll succeed there. I think Matt Rule was a no joke, serious, really good, seriously very good college head coach, and I'm sure he's going to do well. There's going to be plenty of good opportunities out there for him to take. 49ers are looking really good. Garoppolo's got that team clicking. Man, Jeff Wilson Jr., the running back right now. When Elijah Mitchell comes back, I don't think Elijah Mitchell's going to be getting his starting job back when he does eventually come back sometime this year. The running back for the 49ers. I don't think he's going to be getting a starting job back. Jeff Wilson Jr. has been looking awesome. And the 49ers, as always, have a running back step in and just put up 100 yards a game, regardless of who it is. Shanahan's just a genius as an offensive coordinator. Garoppolo knows that offense inside and out. He's doing great. I'm happy to see that for Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm really happy to see that. But 49ers are clicking. Defense is looking really tough. 49ers are going to be there at the end of the season as serious Super Bowl contenders. And they play in a tough division. They play in a division that hasn't been living up to expectations in terms of the Rams and the Cardinals, so we'll get into it in a little bit. But I think those two teams, the Rams and the Cardinals, are going to wind up. They're going to start rattling off some wins at some point, and they will also be playoff threats as well, or at least a threat to make the playoffs. I have no doubt about the Rams. The Rams will find their footing, but the 49ers are rattling off wins now. They're looking really solid on both sides of the ball, and Jimmy G has that offense clicking. And I realize it's the Panthers they beat, but still, they really kick the crap out of them. That's kind of what you want to see when you are that much better than your opponent. And again, about Matt Rule, the only thing I'm not being critical of Matt Rule. I mean, not everyone's going to succeed as a head coach, especially as a first-time head coach in the NFL. Like I said, I'm sure he'll go back to college. He's going to do very well, I think, wherever he goes. He's proven himself to be an excellent college football head coach. But I never understood the Panthers signing him to a 7-year deal. I would have told him goodbye. I know apparently Matt Rule, at least his agent, was saying, well, he's got like this 10-year deal with Baylor. If you want him, you're going to have to give him at least a 7-year deal. I would have said, forget about it. I'm not giving some dude who's unproven, a 7-year contract. That's absolutely ridiculous. All right, so let me move on over here. 4-1 Cowboys. They're now 4-1. They defeated the Rams 22-10. The Cowboys are 4-1. They defeated the Rams, who are now 2-3, 22-10. This is a big game. Rams are in trouble. They don't have a running game because they don't have an offensive line, and their only dependable wide receiver is Cooper Kupp. There is nobody else right now. Allen Robinson's horrible. OBJ is going to be fine. He's going to do great for whatever team he decides to go to. I personally think he should go back to the Rams. It's not written in stone. I know he's meeting with other teams, good quality teams like the Bills. I think he should go back to LA. I think they're a match made in heaven, and I think he will wind up there. But he's probably not going to be playing until like November. They need to make a move. Now, if they're not making a move for like a DJ Moore or some other quality wide receiver, they need to make a move, and this is probably more important. They need to improve that offensive line because it's not good. and he does. Stafford needs help. He needs help. Or I would say maybe get an offensive lineman and maybe trade for a really good running back. I don't think Barkley for the Giants, who I don't want traded, I want him retained by my team. I want the Giants to retain Saquon Barkley. Maybe they can make a trade for like a Khalil Herbert, or maybe they can make a trade for Christian McCaffrey, who it looked like apparently the Bills were interested in trading for him, but what I read earlier today was that the Panthers are not interested in trading either DJ Moore or Christian McCaffrey. I get it. You want to hold on. These are young players. You want them. You keep these guys. It's like enticing to attract a new head coach. I get it. But anyway, my point being that if players like that are available, LA Rams have got to look into it because Stafford needs help. It can't just be Cooper Kupp. It just can't be Cooper Kupp. They're in trouble. they're in big trouble if they can't improve the offensive line and get him at least one other weapon, either a legit running back or a legit wide receiver too. The Cowboys are looking great. I got my dog I got to deal with. Hang on one second. Sorry, guys. Melvin's trying to have his say over here. He's being a pain in the ass. But anyway, let me move this along anyway. So Rams are not looking good. I know they're a tough team. They're an excellent coach team, but they do need help. The Cowboys, on the other hand, are looking great, and they're doing it with the backup quarterback. The defense has been legitimate. The defense has been completely legitimate. Cooper Rush, the backup quarterback, has not been making any mistakes. He's not putting up monster numbers or anything. He doesn't really need to. He's been very efficient, Cooper Rush, in holding the line, not making mistakes, and just letting the defense dominate. So that's what the Cowboys have been doing. Dak should be back soon, and Cowboys 4-1. They're up. I think, in my opinion, they're right up there with the Eagles as the top two or three teams in the NFC. I think the Buccaneers are not looking. They're looking kind of shaky. The Rams are looking very, very shaky. But I guess the top three teams in the NFC right now are looking like the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the 49ers, the dangerous 49ers. All right, speaking of the Eagles, let's dive into this game here. The Eagles almost faced their first loss against the Cardinals. Eagles are now 5-0. Sorry. Eagles are now 5-0. They defeated the Cardinals. Cardinals are now 2-3. The final score was 20-17. And Cardinals put up a good fight here. Here's another team that needs help. I've heard. I remember some people dumping on Kyler Murray earlier this year. Don't. The guy is an excellent quarterback. He's a weapon. He's really good. He knows what he's doing, but he needs help as well. Okay, his wide receivers that he has right now are not going to cut it, and neither are his running backs. Benjamin, I'm sorry, is not some is not some great running back. They need some legitimate weapons to help this dude out. DeAndre Hopkins is coming back. I think he's back this week. I believe it was week 6 that he was coming back. Maybe it's week 7. But even with Hopkins, they're going to need more help. Hang on one second. I got to take care of my dog. Sorry, everybody. I'm here by myself, and I got to take care of my dog. He just loves my attention. So anyway, the Eagles are looking like the juggernaut of the NFL. Listen, every team is beatable, but man, the Eagles are tough on both sides of the ball. Jalen Hurts is having a fantastic year. You had a really good game here. The Cardinals are a tough team, and like I was just saying before, Kyler Murray does need help. Seriously, he can't do it all by himself. He is a phenomenal talent, Kyler Murray. But he needs help. And the Cardinals need to start investing seriously this offseason in quality wide receivers and a real running back. No more of this James Conner crap and Benjamin crap. James Conner's fine at the goal line. This is not some dude you can count on for an entire season. And I don't think Benjamin is not a starting running back either. At best, he's a backup dude. They need a real running back and they need some real receivers besides DeAndre Hopkins. So Kyler Murray needs help, and I think he does have a really good head coach, and he's got a good GM. They've been compiling a good young team over there, but they really need to get him help. They really do. And if I were Kyler Murray, I'd be kind of pissed by the lack of support he's been given with the receivers that he's been given to work with. I think they stink outside of DeAndre Hopkins, to be honest with you. So anyway, Cardinals almost had an upset here. They fall to 2-3, but I don't count out the Cardinals at all. Cardinals are always a tough team, especially with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray can pull a win out of his rear end at any time. He's a very talented quarterback. The Eagles are marching. They are looking so good and solid on both sides of the ball. They got a tough matchup coming up that we're going to talk about soon with the Cowboys this upcoming weekend, though. So I'm looking forward to that game. And the Ravens, who are now 3-2, they defeated the Bengals, who are now 2-3, 19-17. Neither of these teams are looking very impressive. Ravens have a lot of deficiencies. Ravens are kind of like the Packers, where the Packers have always had a really good offense. Now they're looking kind of one-dimensional, without having Devontae Adams there. But they still have that really good running game the Packers do. The Ravens, their defense is not what it was. I realize they held the Bengals to 17 points, but the Bengals are not right now looking like the Bengals of last year either. The Ravens do have deficiencies on that defense. It's still a tough, well-coached team. This is a tough team, mentally very tough team, and they are talented and they're really, really well coached. But there are holes in that Ravens defense, and for the Ravens for a long time, it's always been their defense and the running game combined with Lamar Jackson. The defense isn't looking all that good, to be honest with you. But it was a good game, close game, divisional game. Ravens are now 3-2. Bengals are 2-3. These two teams, I think, are going to have a hard time making the playoffs. I think they're going to kind of be like middling for the rest of the season. To be honest with you, I'm not sure. I don't have a feeling that either of these teams are going to get hot. You can never count either of these teams out in any single game. But I can see both of these teams kind of like throughout the rest of the year taking one step forward, one step back. These the Bengals are not the same team as last year. Their offensive line's looking like crap. Maybe it'll straighten out. That will obviously help them out a lot because that's been the big deficiency this year. It's been the Bengals offensive line. The Ravens. I was expecting more from Rashad Bateman by this point. I was really high on him coming out of last year's draft, the 2021 draft. I was very high on him. I've expected more from him. I've been disappointed in him so far. Uh, Duvernay has been looking like a really good, solid wide receiver too, but they need a wide receiver one, and Bateman is not yet, at least not yet, looking like a wide receiver one. They need that to help out Lamar Jackson and the running game. Just listen, the running game's not as the Ravens' running game is not as dominant as it used to be. They're very capable of putting up good rushing numbers and having good rushing games, but it's not something I think that can be counted on outside of Lamar Jackson. It's not something that can be counted on a week-to-week basis anymore, like we've been used to for a long time. They need wide receiver help too, and I think they've been linked to possible trades for DJ Moore as well, as they should. And if they can get DJ Moore, that's going to help out Lamar Jackson as well. But I'm a little worried about both of these teams, like I said earlier. Um, I just I have this feeling unless they make a trade, at least unless the Ravens make a trade for a legit wide receiver, I have a feeling it's kind of going to be like one step forward, one step back for them. And same thing with the Bengals. The Bengals have me concerned. I realize they're missing T. Higgins, I believe, this weekend, but still you got Jamar Chase, who's been having a quiet year, and you also have Mixon and you have Tyler Boyd. Bengals defense has been pretty good. It's been pretty good. You've got two, and you have Burrow, obviously. You've got too many weapons to be 2-3, to being 2-3. Bengals. So, but these two teams do have me concerned. They do. The Chiefs are 4-1. They're looking fantastic. This was a really good game. It was looking like a blowout early on. I think the Raiders, if I recall correctly, this was the Monday night game. The Raiders, I think, stormed out to like a 20-0 or 20-3 lead, something like that, in the first half. And then, unsurprisingly, the Chiefs stormed back. It wasn't a great receiving game for the Chiefs receivers, but Travis Kelce, 4 touchdowns on 4 receptions, I believe, for a total of 25 yards. I think Kelsey only had 4 receptions, 25 yards, but it was 4 touchdowns. That is insane. And the Chiefs wound up, storming back unsurprisingly and stealing the win here from the Raiders, 30-29. It was a heck of a game, a heck of a Monday night game, and a heck of a way to wrap up the week 5 of the NFL. Chiefs are looking fantastic. They're up there with the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'll say even the Dallas Cowboys and possibly even the 49ers is like the true upper echelon teams so far this year through week 5. Chiefs are looking really, really good. The Raiders are in a lot of trouble. They're now 1-4. They do play in a very tough division. I realize the other teams like the Chargers and the Broncos aren't playing up to our expectations. The Chargers are 3-2, but I think it's been an ugly 3-2 for the Chargers. I think we expected it to be easier for them. The Chiefs are 4-1. They're the one team in the NFC West that is performing like we expected. But the Raiders, I realize some of the other teams in the division aren't that much ahead of them, like the Broncos, who are only 2-3, and the Chargers, who are 3-2. But man, 1-4 in that division, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to fight back. It's gonna be hard to crawl back. So I think they're in a lot of trouble, the Raiders. And if they're gonna turn the ship around record-wise, they need to do it now. They need to do it like week 6. It needs to start now because that's a division where three teams could conceivably make the playoffs from that division. So they can't lose any more ground. The Raiders cannot lose any more ground. Um, they certainly can't fall to 1-5, and so they need to start rattling off wins starting week 6. The Raiders, if they're going to be relevant for any playoff talk this year. All right, guys. So let's move on to that's the week 5 games. Let's move on to my week 6 picks. And let me share a screen over here. Okay, my week 5 results. Again, I've had a very middling year for my picks. Last year, my picks were awesome. I kicked ass in my picks. Pretty much every week, and definitely for the entirety of last year, I did really well. Here, I've been very middling this year. My week 5 results, I was 7-8-1 with the spread, so I had one push there, and then straight up, I was 8-8. So far for the entire season with the spread, I'm 37, 40, and 3. So that's 37 wins, 40 losses, and 3 pushes. Straight up, I'm 42, 37, and 1. So a little better straight up, but just very middling. Very disappointed in myself. All right, let's get to my week 6 picks. Okay, Commanders at the Bears. The Bears are giving a point. I'm going to take the Bears giving the point, and the Bears straight up. Bears have played tough football, I think, the entire year. They've been pretty much in every single games in Chicago. Um, so I'm going to go with the Bears winning this game both straight up and giving the 1 point to the Commanders. Buccaneers at the Steelers. And the Steelers are getting 8 points at home. I'm going to take the Buccaneers giving the 8 points and the Buccaneers straight up. I don't think Kenny Pickett played poorly last week. Um, but the Buccaneers defense is also really tough. They're going to make things very, very tough for the rookie quarterback. And so I'm going to take the Buccaneers giving the 8 points, and I'll take the Buccaneers straight up. But I think the Buccaneers defense is going to make it very, very tough for Kenny Pickett. Jets at the Packers. The Packers are giving 7.5 points. I'm going to take the Jets getting the points, and I'll take the Packers straight up. I can see the Jets getting blown out here. I've been praising the Jets because I do think they look good, and I think they're definitely headed in the right direction. But playing in Green Bay is tough, and the Packers just got upset by the Giants. Packers could be looking for revenge. Take revenge out on someone big time, and they're going to be at home. The Jets could easily fall victim to that. This could easily be like a 2 touchdown game win by the Packers, but I think the Jets are going to keep it close. My point being that I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers took out any anger on the Jets while they're in Green Bay. But I'll take the Jets getting the 7.5 points, but I'll take the Packers straight up to win in Green Bay. Okay, Ravens at the Giants. The Giants are getting 5.5 points. Funny thing about the Giants, and I know my team inside and out, is that historically, even going back to the beginning of the Tom Coughlin era, the Giants have played better on the road. I actually get more nervous when they play at home. I don't think they play as well at home. And the Ravens, for a long time, have kicked the crap out of the Giants. Don't get me wrong, I'm really happy how the Giants have been playing. I'm happy the direction that they're headed in. I love this coaching staff. But the Ravens are a proven team that's really, really tough team. Physically, mentally tough team, well coached team on themselves by Harbaugh. The Ravens are a really, really well coached team. But I'll take the Giants getting the 5.5 points at home at MetLife, but I'll take the Ravens straight up to win this game. I would not be shocked if the Giants win this game. I would not be shocked at all. But I'm just going to go in history. The Ravens, who, like I said, I think are kind of in trouble themselves as well. Um, they're in some trouble themselves. They are a really, really well coached team. I do think the Ravens are the better team. I'm gonna take the Ravens to win this game straight up, but I think the Giants are going to keep it close. So I think they're going to make it a good game. And again, I wouldn't be shocked if the Giants won. The 49ers at the Falcons. The Falcons are getting 5.5 points at home. I'm going to take the 49ers, giving the points and the 49ers straight up. Like I said earlier, I do think the Falcons have been playing admirably. I think they've been keeping these games pretty close, the games that they lose. And they've been playing tough themselves. But I think the 49ers are just rolling. And I think the 49ers are just going to be too good for them on both sides of the ball. So I'll take the 49ers giving the 5.5 points. And I'll take the 49ers straight up. The Vikings at the Dolphins. The Dolphins are getting 3.5 points. I'm going to take the Dolphins getting the points. This game's in Miami. I'm going to take the Dolphins getting 3.5 points in Miami. I'll take the Vikings straight up, but man, I would not be shocked at all. I'm so tempted to take the Dolphins with the backup quarterback because the backup quarterback is Bridgewater. And this is a proven guy. He can win, and he's got some really good wide receivers that he's throwing to. I'm very, very tempted to take the Dolphins, but especially like how I said, what I said earlier about the Vikings, they always shoot themselves in the foot. The Vikings always find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. But you know what? All right, the Vikings are 4-1. I'll go with the Vikings straight up, but I'll take the Dolphins getting to 3.5 points at home. I think Bridgewater is going to do fine as the starting quarterback this week, holding down the fort for the Dolphins. Bengals at the Saints. The Saints are getting 2 points. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Saints are getting 2 points at home. I'll take the Bengals giving the points and the Bengals straight up. Patriots at the Browns. The Browns are giving 2.5 points. I'm going to take the Patriots getting the points, and I'll take the Browns straight up. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Belichick will keep this a close game somehow. And again, the Browns, like the Vikings, always seem to be a team that either plays up to the competition or plays down to the competition. And I definitely think the Browns are much more talented than New England. But again, the Patriots have Belichick. I think he'll find a way to keep this game close. And yeah, I would be surprised if the Patriots won this game. I would be, but Belichick will find a way to keep it close. I'll take the Patriots getting the 2.5 points, but I'll take the Browns straight up. Jaguars at the Colts. The Colts are giving 2 points. I'm going to take the Colts giving the points and the Colts straight up. I think the Colts are going to start rattling off some wins. I think they're going to start rattling off some wins, and I think they're going to take control of that division. I think that win on this past Thursday night against the Broncos is really going to set the Colts. I know it was an ugly win. I know it was an ugly win, but it's a win. And you got out of Denver with a win. That is not easy to do at all. I don't care how poor Russ Wilson looked. That is not an easy place to win. The Colts went in and did it. And just like last year, a slow start to the season, right? Kind of stumbling, but yet they're 2-1. That's not horrible. And I think they're in first place in the division, and the division is not looking very good. Actually, I guess the Titans are in first place, but the Colts are right there. I think the Colts are going to start taking charge of this division. And I think it started last week against Denver. I think they're going to take care of business pretty easily against the Jaguars. So the Colts are giving 2 points. I'll take the Colts giving the points and the Colts straight up. Then you've got the Panthers at the Rams. Um, the Rams are giving 9.5 points. I'll take the Rams giving the points and the Rams straight up. I realize the Rams haven't been looking good, at least compared to what we expected of the Rams, but the Panthers have looked really bad, and now they've got a new head coach. Okay, last game. No, it's not the last game. Cardinals at the Seahawks. The Seahawks are getting 2.5 points at home. I'm going to take the Seahawks getting the points, but I'll take the Cardinals straight up. But man, the Seahawks in Seattle, they always play tough there. Um, Cardinals offense has not been looking good, but I'll tell you what, I'll take the Seahawks getting the 2.5 points at home, and I'll take the Cardinals straight up. Bills at the Chiefs. What a great game. Wow, what a matchup. I'll take the Chiefs are getting 2.5 points at home. So this is the Bills at Kansas City, and the Chiefs are getting 2.5 points at home. I gotta take the Chiefs getting the points. And I'm gonna take the Chiefs straight up in this game as well because it's in Kansas City. This is such a great matchup. So yeah, I'm going to take the Chiefs getting 2.5 points at home, and I'll take the Chiefs straight up to win in Kansas City in a really, really good game. That is a must-see game. Another must-see game. The Cowboys at the Eagles. The Eagles are giving 6.5 points. I'm going to take the Cowboys getting the points, even if Cooper Rush is still the quarterback. And I think he is. I don't think Dak is going to be back. If Dak is back, I definitely have no problem taking the Cowboys getting the points. But even if it's Cooper Rush, I think that I'll take the Cowboys getting the points, but I'll take the Eagles straight up to win. That's another must see game. And Broncos at the Chargers. The Chargers are laying 5 points. I'm going to take the Broncos getting the points. I'll take the Chargers straight up. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. And that's the last game. That's the last pick for week 6. Okay, let me stop sharing that. And that is a wrap, folks. Okay, this was gone on for almost an hour and 15 minutes. So anyway, here are the Twitter handles for me and all my compadres here at Toss the Titles. There's like 15 of us. If you could please follow all of us at all of our Twitter handles, I'd greatly appreciate it. And last but not least, just a friendly reminder, please hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, give us that 5-star Apple review. It really helps us a lot. Anyway, everyone, that is a wrap. I'm tired. I am out of here. Enjoy your week 6 games. And again, thank you for joining me here. Thank you for joining me here tonight. I really appreciate it for the show. And I'll catch you next week, everyone. Take care. Enjoy the upcoming games for week 6, everybody. Take care.